Like we've been doing every day, it's time for our news bulletin today. It's 10 minutes of just news, no fuss, no noise, no opinions. This is old school style news bulletin. It's the 18th of February, and here is your news for today. A horrific incident has now been reported from Unnao in Uttar Pradesh, where three minor Dalit girls were found lying unconscious in a field yesterday. The girls were 16, 13, and 17 years old. They left home in the afternoon to get fodder for animals, and two of the three minor girls were declared dead. The third is battling for her life in hospital. The three girls, who were cousins, did not return home by late evening. The family began searching for them and found them lying in a field unconscious. They were taken to the hospital where the two girls were declared dead. The oldest one is struggling for her life now in a hospital in Kanpur. The bodies of the two girls have been sent for autopsy. The police say they suspect that it's a case of poisoning because there are no signs of struggle at the site and no injury marks found prima facie on the girls' bodies. The brother of the girl, though, claims that they had been found with their hands and feet tied up. According to the Indian Express, the brother, when speaking to the media, said that they had gone to the farm to collect grass. And when we went to look for them, they were found tied up with their own clothes like their chunnis. End quote. In 2017, a 17-year-old girl was gang raped in Unnao, which led to a national uproar and protests. In 2019, 86 rape cases and 185 cases of sexual harassment were reported in Unnao in Uttar Pradesh alone. The state of Uttar Pradesh has been under the scanner for lapses in law and order, especially when it comes to crimes against women and girls from the oppressed classes. Moving on to an update now from the Disha Ravi toolkit case. The Delhi police on Thursday told the High Court that it had not leaked any probe material to the media in connection with the FIR lodged against the climate change activist Disha Ravi. The court was hearing a plea filed by Disha Ravi's lawyers to restrain the police from leaking probe material to the media. According to the Hindustan Times, in the petition that was filed today, Disha Ravi said the police had taken custody of her mobile phone on the 13th of February and compelled her to supply passwords to access her phone, email address, and social media accounts. Details of her private chats then promptly appeared on the media. The advocate appearing for the police has said an affidavit will be filed by the police tomorrow. The court has also issued a notice to the News Broadcasting Standards Authority and a few media houses regarding publishing extracts of Ravi's private chats. The matter will be heard again tomorrow. An update on the farmers' protests. Farmers protesting against the farm laws blocked railway tracks in several states, including Punjab, Haryana, and Bihar, as part of their 4-hour nationwide rail roko agitation today. There was commotion in Bangalore, where the police refused to allow farmers to protest. Farmers had earlier announced that trains would be halted across the country between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. on the 18th of February, that's today. Farm leader Rakesh Tikayat said the government should not be under the impression that farm protests will end because farmers have to go back to their villages to harvest crop in about a month or so. Speaking to farmers at a Mahapanchayat in Hisar, he said, and I quote, "Even if you have to set fire to your standing crop, you should be prepared to do it. The government shouldn't harbor the impression that farmers will return home. We will harvest our crops and continue our agitation at the same time." End quote. This was Tikayat speaking to the farmers. In other news on fuel prices, the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, on Wednesday said the middle class would not be burdened if the previous government had focused on reducing India's energy import dependence. He said India imported 85% of its oil needs in 2019-20, the financial year, and 53% of its gas requirement. He was speaking at a function to inaugurate oil and gas projects in coal-bound Tamil Nadu when he said, "Can we be so import dependent? I don't want to criticize anyone, but I want to say that had we focused on this subject earlier, our middle class would not be so burdened." End quote. The Prime Minister said his government is sensitive to the concerns of the middle class and has focused on the rising share of ethanol mixing in petrol. Ethanol, for our viewers, is extracted from sugarcane to help cut imports and as well give farmers an alternate source of income. Just to give you an update, the prices of branded petrol, which gets higher taxes, has now crossed the 100 rupee per litre mark in some parts of the country, including Maharashtra. The PTI reported today in Mumbai, petrol now costs 96 rupees and 32 paise per litre. Diesel is at 87 rupees and 32 paise per litre, although the Prime Minister didn't make any specific mention to the rising prices of fuel. In Maharashtra, in an example of political bullying, the Maharashtra Congress today took an aggressive stand against celebrities who had once been critical of the central government over fuel prices in the previous regime, but are now not saying anything. The party chief has gone to the extent of threatening the screening and shooting of films involving stars like Amitabh Bachchan and Akshay Kumar if they don't speak up now as they had done before. The BJP, on the other hand, has come out in support of these stars in the wake of this threat issued by the ruling party of the state. The head of the Congress in Maharashtra has said, in Maharashtra, we will not allow the shooting of films involving Akshay Kumar or Amitabh Bachchan. Either you speak up against the anti-national policies of this government or we will stop your movies and shooting, he said. Moving on to the south now, a floor test has been ordered on Monday for the Puducherry Assembly. Only hours after taking charge as new Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, Tamilisai Soundarajan has ordered a floor test in the Legislative Assembly for the 22nd of February, Monday, to ascertain whether the Congress-led government in the Union Territory has majority in the Assembly. On Tuesday, the Congress-led government in Puducherry appeared to have lost its majority after the second MLA of the party resigned in just 2 days. Late in the evening, the central government removed Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory, Kiran Bedi, with whom the government had had a long-running battle, and replaced her with Telangana Governor Soundarajan, a former president of the BJP in Tamil Nadu, who has now been given additional charge of Puducherry as well. Interesting news coming in from overseas today. A very unusual day in Australia. Facebook blocked its users from accessing and sharing news content across the country. This comes in response to a proposed law in Australia which would make tech giants pay for the news content that's being shared on their platforms. Those outside the country were also unable to read or access any Australian news publications on the platform. The Australian government has strongly criticized the move, saying it demonstrated the immense market power of these digital social media giants. Facebook said news outlets voluntarily post their articles on the platform, which helped Australian publishers earn 407 million Australian dollars in 2020 through referrals. Australian MP Scott Morrison has said Facebook's actions were as arrogant as they were disappointing. In Texas, in America, millions of Texans have been without heat or power as the Arctic weather continues to batter the state. Now, it's among the biggest and the largest blackouts in US history that has affected 2.8 million people across the state of Texas. With some power restored on Tuesday night, outages are expected to continue, though, through the week. At least 30 people in 8 states have died as winter weather sweeps across the country. President Joe Biden has declared an emergency in Texas and has offered federal assistance to aid response efforts. Misinformation was spreading online on Tuesday. Some conservative groups and lawmakers falsely blamed blackouts on the frozen wind turbine that quit generating power. But in reality, it turns out thermal energy sources went offline, such as coal and natural gas plants, and that contributed more to the problem. In France, the French National Assembly has approved a legislation designed to maintain a counter to the rise of Islamist separatism in its towns and cities. According to the government, this threatens national unity. The legislation did not single out any one particular religion, but includes restrictions on educating children outside of mainstream schools, stricter surveillance of religious associations, and rules against hate campaigns. The bill also opposed forced marriages and virginity tests. France has a Muslim population of 5 million people, which is the largest of any country in Europe. The country suffered a wave of Islamist militant attacks in the recent years and is tackling religious extremism, French identity, and domestic security, which will be big issues in its upcoming presidential elections next year. Well, a quick look at news from the sports world. Naomi Osaka has beaten Serena Williams in the Australian Open semi-finals 6-3, 6-4. Osaka has maintained a winning streak of 20 matches, beating Williams in the 5-game run. Remember, Osaka also beat Williams in the 2018 US Open final and the Australian Open in 2019. Well, that's a quick wrap from me of the news. Remember, leave us your comments and your feedback and share this with anyone you might feel will find this useful. We'll be back again tomorrow to give you the news. For now, good night and thanks for watching.